Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to another weekly market forecast with Yemi Olaleye. This is brought to you by FX Pro. Today, we'll be checking out the weekly market forecast that covers for 17th of August to 21st of August 2026. First, we go to the fundamental outlook stating from August 17th to check out what we have from Monday to Friday, only focusing on high impact news. Monday, 17th of August, 1:30 p.m. Nigerian time, we have Canadian dollar coming up on CPI and monthly by monthly, as well as the trimmed CPI coming up that same time. On Tuesday, we have high impact news only on Great Pounds, which is on claimants count change. And on Wednesday, we have Great Pounds and US dollar coming up at 7 a.m. Nigerian time and 7 p.m. Nigerian time, respectively. And that's focused on CPI for Great Pounds and FOMC meetings for US dollar. On the Thursday, August 20th, we have AUD coming up 2:30 a.m. for employment change and unemployment rate. And of course, on Friday, the last trading day of the week, we have no high impact news at all. So that week is a bit filled with some of the high impacts volatility on some of the currencies like US dollar, Great Pounds, for example. Quickly to move into the technical part of the business, let's start with the DXY going forward. On the weekly time frame on the DXY, we have the price reaction for last week, which was also a very, very indecisive candle. And when we check through that, you're going to realize we have something like this on the chart, whereby the weekly candles for the last 2 weeks ended this way, no momentum to the upside or to the downside, almost doji. And with that outlook, therefore, this might literally mean that if the price is going to break just below the zone right here, we may be seeing more sell momentum on the XY till the price gets here before we start seeing more buy. However, it's not looking good for a sell or for a buy opportunity because right here we are looking for a premium sell overall. So what my projection will be for this week is to quietly wait for the market to open. If we're going to break just below this zone right here, that might mean that the market will go a little bit just below before we buy. And around this price level will be the next zone we'll be targeting for a buy on DXY. But that's quickly aside. Let's check out what the opportunity looks like when we check it on the 4 hour time frame perspective. On the 4 hours, therefore, this is exactly what we have since last week, which I was expecting. I was expecting that the price was going to still hit this bottom level, which is a demand zone right here. And that is why my projection is still sitting around that zone. And for this week to go forward, I'm going to just make a little projection and extend this out a little bit, expecting the price to still move downward to hit this level of demand before we have more buy. And definitely this zone right here is one of the zones we'll be seeing the price getting into in the nearest future. And definitely if we're seeing that momentum, of course, I'll be expecting it to react this way and this way, regardless to hit this level, then we break out of this zone and we move forward. So this is the projection I'm having on DSY for this week on 4 hour time frame. And quickly, let's check the impact of that on Euro US dollar. On Euro US dollar, on the other hand, when you check the weekly time frame perspective, we look at this that this is forming almost the inversion of what we have on DXY. And the last 2 weeks on this one particularly formed a bullish candle with much of doji momentum and vibe. Definitely, we're looking for more impact on these directions before we take it. Definitely, we're still looking for more sell overall, which is able to deliver about 429 pips in the future into this zone before we look for a buy on Euro US dollar weekly time frame. On the daily time frame, however, we look at the price differently because right here is the premium zone, which we're expecting the price to have actually react to before now, which is just sitting above here. But I do not want to take the entire range because it's quite voluminous and I can't afford to read that much. So I went to 4 hour time frame perspective to rather break it down and refine my entry. So with that, I'm left with this entry zone at 1.15963 and stop loss just above it. And this is where I'm expecting to still see reaction of this momentum. So definitely, I still want to see more buy of this momentum into this level before we have a sell going forward for this week. So however, this will be my projection on Euro US dollar 4 hour time frame perspective. And this, it makes more sense for me that way. So let's see how the markets react. And from there, we're going to decide how we're going to move around this entire idea. Then quickly, I move to the Great Pounds US dollar. Let's look at this on the weekly time frame perspective too, and let's see what opportunities this is also giving. On the weekly time frame perspective, this is not giving that much of a buy and sell. We have so much uncleared altitude of the market movement, much range and all of that. But on the daily time frame perspective, let's see what we have. I've marked this zone above here. This is a previous high structure within a context of price delivery, and also I'm expecting the price to actually break above it into a price level like this as a premium before we start seeing more sell. That makes more sense on the 4-hour time frame perspective because that is where I make it out, and I'm going to show you exactly what I saw there. This is the level I'm targeting to see the price reaction to react off in the nearest future, and from there we want to see more sell opportunity. So left to me, I would be waiting to see more bullish momentum on this particularly before we target next sell opportunity. I want to see the price getting into this range, and from there I'll be targeting the next sell momentum. So that makes more sense for me. In the future, we can talk more about how the price will get alongside with some beautiful momentum of this zone right here before we see some beautiful buy opportunity of this zone. Like we've seen markets doing this kind of movements here before smashing back again, but this will be in the nearest future. But for now, let's focus on the sell. Let's focus on the sell opportunity that is way ahead of us, and let's see how the market unfold these opportunities right before our own very highs. All right, quickly going to the AUD US dollar on the weekly time frame perspective, we'll look at what the market has created over the time. We've seen how the momentum has really moved from one week to the other. Last week was a bullish one, previous week was a bullish one for AUD and AUD US dollar. So ideally, I was expecting to see more buy till the price gets to around 0.7129 before we start selling off. On the 4-hour time frame, this is what we have here. This is my projection. I've marked this zone for a long time now, expecting what? Expecting the price reaction to break above this previous internal range liquidity, grab the liquidity, and expecting what exactly? To see the price eating up this level and give us some good sell of that zone. And with that, definitely I'll be waiting for it to break below this previous low level here. And entire movement you're going to see from there will be about how many pips in total? 250 pips in total. But we can still work with this, which is around 208. And regardless, if you're able to make 200 pips or a 100 pips, 150, it's okay. It's all good. So basically, this is what I'm looking at on AUD US dollar for this week. Expecting the price reaction. This is still very much of a bullish energy and it's giving us a contest that we should be expecting a sell just above the current price level. So let's see how that unfolds. Anyhow it is, we're going to take this with proper risk management, and that is on AUD US dollar. Without wasting time, I move straight to the NZDUSD. I talked about this last week that also this is not really showing more clear energy. On weekly time frame perspective, we have more of a range, just like British pounds US dollar, and this is not really showing much. On the daily time frame perspective, therefore, we have something similar to that of the AUD USD, which we have the price just sitting above the current market price for a sell opportunity ahead. On the 4-hour time frame perspective, therefore, I hope I'm not too fast. This is what I'm looking at on the 4-hour time frame, NZD US dollar. I want to see the price to still do more of a buy of about 42 to 45 pips into that level. If we see the price eating into that range, it will be a very good opportunity for us to start looking for more sell in there. And overall, I will want to see the price to get into this price level, and that will be an entire 300 pips on average. So currently, if it's able to do this interim low and we see this level as 168 pips, which is very fine. But most importantly, let's wait for price to move and let's execute with that clarity. So going forward for the US dollar, we have a sell limit also on this price level, and they move to the USD CAD. Like I said, USD CAD last week I was expecting it to actually buy overall because we have more of buying on weekly time frame perspective. We're looking for more buy based on the structure in the market. Last week we had a bearish momentum candle, and this week is heading just into a demand range, which is somewhere around here. It's not the best type of the zone I'll be looking out for on a good day, but honestly, this is how it's looking right now. We have more sell coming into this level, but let's see it on the daily time frame perspective. If we could carve a niche out of this entire outlook for our buyers, well, this is what it's still looking like. This is like the zone that we have right here. Not so clear, but we are expecting more buy overall. But on 4-hour time frame perspective, we have sold massively. Much as we bought massively here, we are selling massively right now. So the thing I'm having here is that I'm expecting the price reaction. Probably this is on 1-hour time frame, I guess. I'm expecting this is too much data, which I do not like it. Let me see if it's on 4 hours. If it's manageable 4 hours, I would have preferred, or daily time frame. probably I would have preferred because I do not want much of this range. Okay, the range is actually too much right here. Just like this entire range, I can manage to deal with this. Then I can manage to structure my entry around here. So basically, on 4 time frame perspective, this is how it's looking like. I will be looking for more sales. So this particular buy is still not. Last week it didn't move that way as we projected. So for this week, what should we be expecting? I actually want to see more buy momentum on this one particularly because price has shown us structures, different levels, different times. But I want to see reaction of the zone, a little bit of sell, and also I want to see price reaction here. This might not be too pure as price may likely just smash through it. So this would be my projection for this one this week. And before then, that means we're expecting the price to actually hit this level, give us some buy before all of this one happen just later on in the nearest future. So for this week, I'll be expecting a bit of this movement on USD CAD. And quickly, let's go forward to the next one. This is USD CAD right here. And how it is when the market opens, we're going to determine what we'll be doing and what we should do better with this one particularly. All right. So on the USDJPY on the weekly time frame perspective, don't forget we had a blast on this one sometimes ago. And with that entire outlook, therefore, it means that we could be waiting to see price reaction buying off to this zone again right here. So we're expecting more buy here before we determine if we'll be rejecting or bouncing off that zone. But currently as it is, let's just leave that as it is and let's go to the 4 hour time frame perspective to make it clearer. Okay. 4 time frame, I said this would be annoying, but it's looking good for a buy. Last week, it delivered a little, just like from here. It delivered some beautiful pips all through last week, over 170 pips thereabout. But I'm expecting the price to actually still get in here, and I will extend this one to the nearest future as that is a zone where we're looking at for the market to react to. I will do this on 1 hour time frame perspective as well to further break it down for refinement of your entry. All right. So this is very good that we look at it from this perspective that this is a zone and this is where I target the zone that we could be having a reaction of this level. So I'm going to remove this one right here. And this is what you're having now on 1 hour time frame perspective for USDJPY. I'm saying that we will be having more buy going forward. This level might do a little based on 1 hour time frame perspective, and this might do more before we have the price smashing through it in the nearest future. So it really depends on how the markets move around here. But this would be my expectation and this would be my projection going forward for this week on USDJPY. Back to 4 hour time frame perspective, it makes more sense. Better look right there. So I'll move forward to the next one, which is USDCHF. What we said last week was the same here. We are actually in a range right here as we have a sell momentum at this price level. Also, we have buy momentum levels right here. This is a 4 hour time frame where the price might actually get into and give us some beautiful sell buy opportunity. And this is a 1 hour time frame where the price might get into, give us some good buy opportunity. But however, currently the price is stuck in between both opportunities for a buy and a sell. So if I were you, what I would do is simple: wait for the price reaction, let the price do a kind of movement like this as we're expecting it, and from there we're going to determine what we want to do, or let the price sells down more and from the lower price level as the demand, that's where we're taking a buy opportunity from. So from now to then, let's see how the price move and reacts. We don't want to jump on trades. We just want to throw with clarity. So for now, there is nothing really juicy right here. It's still very much of a bullish momentum on the lower time frame. And then there's high tendency is going to break below if it breaks below the lower band, which I mean, excuse me, if it breaks below this level right here, that means we could be seeing it selling more and do all of this momentum right there. So this is also something you should you should look out for going forward for this week on USDCHF. All right, about 14 minutes now into the talking and showing. I just want to really move fast so we can cover a whole lot. Then Great Britain pounds JPY, my projection on this one remains the same. And like I said, I'm looking for more buy on it. Like I told you earlier on, look at where my projection was. I said we should be expecting more buy till the price gets here, and that's about 650 something pips. And currently, that's what the market is doing. So it has bought a little bit, and from my projected line to current market price, that's done about 400 pips or close to it. And I believe it's still going to do more buy. On the Great Britain pounds AUD, I have nothing for this guy. It's actually been ranging. The ranging is actually too much, and at the same time, if you're not patient enough, you're not going to enjoy this particular ride right here. So for the 4 hour time frame perspective, we have both buys opportunity and sell opportunity. Price is sitting around that 40-60% of both buys and sells. So let's wait and see the price choosing these buyers, then we move with that energy. But quickly on the Great Pounds Canadian dollar, we have only one zone right there, which is looking good for us to wait for a bearish energy. So if we see the price actually moving into this range, the thing is, I've talked about all of this last week. The market didn't move much last week, so all of these zones are still very much untouched, and more like we do not have so much for last week. However, we have some beautiful movement anyways, and over 30,000 pips were made off SAU and SAG. That is gold and silver, so that makes more sense. And well, they're volatile too, so let's be careful. This week, I'm expecting little less on this one, but if it moves at all, this one I'll be selling from going forward for this one for this week. All right. If you go to gold, particularly, let's go to the daily time frame perspective, where I have an insight to share. Is this level on the daily time frame after we break the previous high level, blah, blah, yada, yada, yada. The previous low structure was not taken out, and if it was taken out, we would have been expecting the price to move into this range for us to buy from here. But currently, the price is just sitting above there. It's moved into the premium level of the daily, and it started selling off on Thursday, which I talked about since Wednesday. Even on at the beginning of the week, I thought about it. Then, on 4 hour time frame perspective, what we have here is very much simple. We would be waiting for more buy as the market tends to show us more buy opportunity here. This is good. And if we're looking, sorry, we're looking for more sell rather. So if we're looking for more sell from the current market price, we might be waiting to see the price reacting off a level like anywhere from around here, which will also make sense. So if I'll be doing that, I'll be taking a buy momentum seriously from here. Currently, the price has given us that energy, right? And then we can be seeing more sell momentum breaking off that zone and reaction of this level and having something like this. So on 4 hour time frame perspective, this is what it looks like for me on gold. And let's see how the market opens for the week. If we're testing back into this range, into that daily premium level before we start selling, it's still very fine. But I want to see more sell for this week on gold US dollar. And then I move to the next one, which is the BTC USD. If you check this out on the daily time frame perspective or weekly, you're going to see that we have more bullish projection overall. Like I said, this is the level we're expecting the price to actually get into in the nearest future. Currently, we're sitting above a trend line, which has also proven to be a broken range in a particular time. All right. And currently, the entire bearish energy we have for an entire week didn't break below the trend line. So that could also mean if we are not breaking below the trend line, we will be breaking above the previous high structure here. We will be having a little bit of reaction of this previous high too and moving into here. And with the fundamental whatsoever that will be happening, they might just sit and align with our expectation in these buyers waiting for more reaction of this daily zone. So on 4 hour time frame perspective, like I said, if you are a position trader or a long-term trader, look forward to more buy right here. If you are doing this on a 1 hour time frame perspective or less, you have to go to a lower time frame perspective and catch opportunities within lower level, which means within this zone too, at a point in time, when you check the lower time frame, you might be having a little bit of sell opportunity sitting just around here, something like this. All right. So when that time comes, don't forget that you might likely just take a brief sell opportunity here before we start buying off again. And this is just inter-time frames analysis. So you can work around that, and that makes more sense going forward for this. But then I'll click, yeah, I'll remove this. And then I move to the next one, man. This is silver. We talked about silver. Sometimes I said it was here and I said it was going to buy into this level before selling. It did that, exactly that. So I'm taking this away and it was a profitable one. Overall, I could be waiting to see reaction of this zone before we start looking for sell. But honestly, the way it's looking now, it's like we will continue selling. Though, if you check the daily time frame perspective on silver too, we are at a zone whereby we were actually expecting the price to react of this level before now. However, we saw it on 4 hour time frame perspective that the story is a bit different because we have price delivery of that zone at some point, breaking previous low structure. And that's why we waited that much. At the same time, if it's applicable to this, then it's also applicable to here. But how will this happen without affecting you, gold US dollar is what we don't know. So honestly, I'll just keep my fingers crossed on this, but most likely we're going to be seeing more sell on it. And then I'm not seeing a projection for where the buy could be taken off at any time soon. Most likely around this price range. And let's see if the price react that way, we're going to know ahead of time price will not just jump here for us to start seeing it as magic. So definitely we're going to wait and see this reaction of this zone. So keep this very simple. We're waiting for reaction of this level, a little bit of buy on silver. However, let's keep this very, very simple. All right, it's about 90 minutes down the lane. On US 30, this is my projection for last week on 4 time frame. We may be having more sell till the price gets in here before we have the reaction. And I'm glad that since last week, I've not thought about this again, and it's moving just like that. A lot of ranges anyway, but we have so much range candles, but it doesn't really matter. Price will take its time to do its thing, but when it's ready to do it, ensure you make profit off that zone. See, what's it called? Crude oil, nothing. It didn't come to this level we're looking for, much of range at the end of the day. But honestly, there is nothing really much here. Fundamental gap, and nothing is really much here for me to look out for. On the daily time frame perspective, let's see if we really have anything. Nothing here is so just back to the technical and the usual thing without fundamental. So gap. Well, nothing is actually here. Well, on lower time frame perspective, there could be, but I'm not seeing anyone right here on this time frame perspective. I would have actually loved to see it sell down into this level before buying, but currently this is what we have. When the market opens, we're going to have more insight on this. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. If you have not subscribed to this channel, kindly subscribe, and that is the only way to encourage what I do every single week. We analyze the market, check out what we need to trade, and adjust ourselves, position ourselves at the beginning of the week, in between the week, at the end of the week for a proper evaluation. Like, subscribe, and comment your currency pair of choice or your instrument that I may check out next in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And through proper risk management, we're going to see you again. Until then, enjoy the rest of the week and do have a profitable week ahead of you. Bye for now.